Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Cash Flow Positive. I'm your host, Kenny Bedwell, and I'm going to share with you why people miss great deals that are right in front of their own eyes. So let's start with a story that recently happened, and this is absolutely insane. I have found that a lot of people lack vision. They have to see something to believe that it can work, but they need to see that it's already working for it to be a good deal or have good potential. And so it doesn't really make sense when you think about it. When you take a step back and you're like, okay, but like the best deals are ones that you have to kind of like, either add things to or have vision, right? Like when you see those really, really cool properties and they also have really cool, good numbers, there's a high probability that the property wasn't cool before they bought it. It was either a fixer upper or it was a property that they built from the ground up. But the reality is the best deals that we see today are ones that you have to have vision. You hear me say the term moat, right? The thing that separates you from a lot of people. Let's talk about what there's different types of moats are out there. There's location, meaning like being in the best location is like the best moat. And there's only a finite number of properties that can be in that location. And if you're in that location, that separates you from the competition. There's also property type. Really crazy types of properties like tree houses and cave houses and glass houses and all these other things. That's a type of moat. There are amenities and design. So they're having really unique amenities or features on the property. But the reality is when we're looking and thinking about purchasing a deal, it needs to have some sort of differentiator moat. The thing that insulates you or protects you or separates you from the competition so you can always stay on top. Okay. You should understand by now that people are naturally lazy and I say this all the time. They like to copy one another. What did this other person do? Let me go on AirDNA or STR Insights and see what people are, the top properties are doing. And I'm going to copy the exact same thing and the exact same model. That is short-term thinking. Okay. We need to be thinking long-term and making good real estate investments. So let me tell you a story. Okay. I went to a conference or event that Bill Faith hosted in Montana last September. So almost a year ago, actually, like literally, we're coming up on the year, but anyway, it was in September, really cool event. There was like 150 people there. And everyone there is obviously looking to purchase a short-term rental, not necessarily in Montana, but just, in general. So this event was held in Whitefish. That's why I mentioned Montana. And Whitefish is not a Whitefish Kalispell. That's near Glacier National Park. Also, Whitefish has this huge ski area. But the area is not that big. Okay. There is some regulation, but the amount of inventory is really what I'm getting at is for potential short-term rentals is just really, really low. Furthermore, the revenue potential for most of the properties in the area versus the purchase price of the properties in the area, it's not a good ROI. It's pretty terrible, actually. A lot of people love Montana, and it is a very beautiful state. But the problem is the ROI just isn't there. It's very seasonal, and housing prices have just really, really inflated in the last 3 to 5 years. And so financially, it doesn't make sense. But naturally, we're at this event, and people are like, oh, I'm going to go tour some properties. And there was one property that was for sale that looked potentially good. And I talked to 10 different people who went and saw this property and all passed on the deal. The property was listed for, I want to say it was listed for like 900 or a little bit 950 or a little bit over that. And let's actually look at the before pictures. This is really important and so if you're listening to this in your car, you're looking at, or I'll describe it to you the best I can. If you're go to the YouTube channel at Cash Flow Positive YouTube channel, there is this podcast. You'll see the video and you'll be able to see the actual property that I'm showing. So here's the property here. It's a different shape. So it's not like your traditional cabin. You can see it's got some privacy and some seclusion. Okay. Notice how it does look a little dated. Like, look at that door. That's a little dated. Okay, maybe the outside, definitely it's got good pictures, but you can tell it needs some painting or updates on the outside of the property. Maybe an older deck. It's okay, in decent shape. Once again, we're looking at a property that was built in the 70s. But on the inside of the home, this is where it gets interesting. Some of it was actually updated. So here's a kitchen, new countertops, backsplash, tiled, new appliances. Like, looks really good. Doesn't need to be updated. Okay, obviously old furniture. This isn't a short-term rental for the moment, but here's what got my attention about this property. There's amazing view. This is like a postcard view. You see there's like a river, so it's got a view of a river that in like wilderness, and you don't see other people's properties or houses, and then it goes to the mountains. Like, this is a long range view. It is beautiful. So if you're in the car, think about a really picturesque, like, I bought a postcard from Montana of a river with the trees and the mountains in the background. Like, this is it. And it's from the back porch, and you can see it on the main level. So looking outside the windows, you can see this gorgeous, gorgeous view. But then you look at the rest of the house, it's like green in some room, like this weird, like forest green. It's just nasty. Like, look at the furniture, the pillars, like there's just a lot of like little things, but it has this amazing view of the river and the mountains in the background and everything. The room, it's got the bedrooms, they've got old carpet, and then the paint, and like some of the bathrooms need to be updated. One room has like the wallpaper. It's just like really just ugly. The toilet, you got this like wood toilet seat, like they didn't even, keep it white. It's the old wood one. Like, we're stuck in the 70s and 80s here, right? Like the wood paneling on the walls, there's green carpet in this one bedroom. The vanity needs to replace. Like, there's grown vegetation around the outside of the house. It just aesthetically, the property doesn't, and then like they have like an updated master bathroom, but it's, it's just really out of place and kind of clunky. And a lot of people, it already had a hot tub, has a little shed off the side of it looks like in decent shape. But most people are looking at this and they're like, oh, like this is ugly. But it has an amazing view. Okay, so that's point number one. And moat number one, that's really important. And then the second moat, I want to show you on a map where this thing is located, because this is very, 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 very important in my opinion. So this property overlooks the Flathead River, which is the river that comes out of Glacier National Park. And it is literally right of the highway that goes to Glacier National Park. So, I mean, I would say like right off, like, you don't hear the highway traffic, but it's like a minute off, right? Like, you can't see it, but it's right there. It's right on the route. So it's not remote. It's not hard to get to. It's right there. And you're probably like maybe 30 minutes from the entrance of West Glacier National Park, which is a big, 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 big deal. So this is in a really good area. So it's in Coram, which is outside of Columbia Falls, which is next to Whitefish. So for Glacier National Park and that scene, this is like you're at the entrance pretty much. Okay. I would give this like an A+ to A- on location, which is really, really high. Most properties, like especially cabins, there are some that are in between here in West Glacier, but most are like way out here. They're over in Whitefish or way down here in Kalispell. But a property this size, especially being 6-bed, 5-bath at $900,000, is very, very intriguing with those views, with the privacy, with the space. It has 3.33 acres. So you have space and privacy there. This isn't like crammed up. You're in the town and you have good views. No. You're private. It feels very private and secluded, but you're right there next to all the action, which is what you want. Okay. So I'm looking at this property and I'm like, 10 people went and saw it. There must be something wrong with it. What's wrong with this thing? Why is and the problem, and they all passed on it. The problem was it was just outdated, right? It just doesn't look the part of a successful short-term rental. What people imagine, this beautiful, sexy cabin, that they would buy in Montana that's going to, generate lots of money. But the three things going for it, let's review those. The picturesque view, okay? The location, and then finally, like all of those are A to A pluses in my opinion. And then finally, the price with the bedroom count. Okay. So when we look at the comps for 6 bedrooms in Montana in this area, because we have to look at kind of the region, because it's 6 bedrooms. It's not 4 or 5, 3s or 2s or whatever, which are more common. It is 6 bedrooms, 5 baths, 3,600 square feet. When we look at the comps, they're all doing well over 200,000. So we've got A plus location, A plus views, A plus like purchase price, we can argue on that, but I'm going to say that's really, really good. Like purchase price to revenue potential. Okay. Because most 6 bedrooms in this market are appraising for 1.4 million or higher. And you see where this is about to go. So 10 people look at this deal in person and they all pass on it knowing these key things for the most part. Because like, number one, I told them, I was like, well, yeah, what about this? What about this? What about this? They just couldn't get over the inside of the property, the interior of the property, the outdated look of it. But here's the truth. We can change those things, right? We can't change the view. We can't change location. And we can, negotiate on purchase price. But if it was 1.4 million, that would be hard to like bring it down to where it's at now, right? That would be $500,000 less. So obviously, this is not necessarily a fixer upper, but an updater, right? So putting essentially lipstick on a pig, but not making it a pig. So what do? I see those 3 key things and I'm like, boom, I have a moat. I have a low purchase price, high revenue potential. This smells like a deal to me, barring any inspections, regulation issues. Let's dive deeper because it definitely deserves it. So we had a client who I talked to a client who actually looked at this property and who decided to take a swing and to actually buy. His name is Steve. I don't know if I can give his full name, but anyway, so Steve decided to buy the property. And now I'm showing the actual Airbnb listing after Steve is done with it. And I'll go through the pictures in a second. Steve bought the property, decided to update the property. He spent, so first off, he got it for $900,000 listing price with $100,000 credit that he could use to improve the property. Okay. So, and he spent about $200,000 in renovation. So $300,000 renovation budget with that $100K credit, and then an extra $200,000 into the property. So all in all, he's all in with a $900K purchase price and the 200 extra K in for the renovation and things. He's all in at 1.1. And then if you include furnishings, we'll call it, I think he spent like 60,000. So 1.16 million on this property. Let's take a look at what he did to it. So he painted the outside of it. He kept its original color, just painted it and kept it. But look at the differences. So we'll go back here and we'll actually make the pictures bigger so you can see it. But like with the furnishings, the inside, look, painted the inside, redid. And look, the kitchen is literally the same. He didn't do anything in the kitchen, just updated lighting fixtures and paint and flooring, redid the garage, the shed area. So it's actually in a usable garage, redid the mudroom area. Obviously we have all these views and all these different things. So we'll keep going through, but look at that. Look at those amazing views that he can market and use. I mean, you can't even see, but you have long range mountain views, which are the best mountain views to have. These are absolutely beautiful. They painted the columns. It looks a lot more modern. It was brought into this century. Okay, I'm going to show you some of the bathrooms they redid because he did reduce a few of the bathrooms that needed to be done. Look at the bedrooms. There's no carpet. It's all LVP flooring, and they painted, right? They painted the rooms. I'm not loving some of the decor if you look at the pictures, but whatever. To each his own. But yeah, I mean, like they did a tub insert, updated the vanity, got rid of the toilets, like updated the toilets. And did, refinish the trim work. It looks completely different. I mean, there's 5.5 bathrooms. So you're going to see a lot, but it's totally modernized. And this was all done for about with the seller credit of $100,000 and the furnishings, $360,000. But look, like this one bathroom, this is the same bathroom that was in the photos before. It just looks, it fits in with the design and everything they did now. And they took advantage of it and put the vision there. There's one bathroom. It's a lot nicer. They did some like tile bathrooms and insert. There we go. Well, one of them, but it just looks much bigger than the photos. They did like a theater room in that back shed area. It looks like a garage. They updated it, made it look really cool. I mean, this property is gorgeous. Knocked it out of the park. So look, let's talk numbers. What's Steve actually going to do? So first off, this property is now worth $1.6 million. What did I tell you he was all in for on this? $1.16 million. Okay, it's now worth $1.6 million. All right, Steve is going to gross. We have a scenario from so we have something between 160 to 190. I think he can do more than that, to be determined. He did a really good job with it. I think he's going to do more than that. But even at 160 to 190, he is looking at cash flow. Let me update. Sorry, I'm like pulling the numbers from everything here. Where I'm looking at a spreadsheet. So he's looking at cash flow between $80,000 to $115,000 a year. $80,000 to $115,000 a year. Now, if you're looking at this and you're going, okay, well, what's the cash on cash return? 17% to 25%. You have an appreciation. You forced equity. And we talked about this last week with the infinite returns model. This isn't quite the infinite return territory because the cash on cash return isn't like 100%. It's like 25%, right? You could argue it's a fixer upper, but it's not necessarily like you're going to get all your money back and be able to pull it out in year one. That's not the play here. It's different, right? It's an appreciating market, really still appreciating market. He forced equity though. He's going to get really good tax benefits on this property. And he's not going to refi it. Okay. He's keeping his money in the deal. And that's why it's just the cash on cash return is 25%. But because the debt service or his purchase price was at $900,000, his debt service, or in other words, his monthly mortgage payments are going to be lower compared to other 6 bedrooms in this market that are generating the same amount of income. His cash flow is going to be much higher. It's going to be over $100,000. So the deal here was missed by over 10 people. And I guarantee you there were many more, hundreds of people who probably saw that property. Because everybody wants to buy a Montana. Not everyone, but a lot of people want to buy a Montana. I hear that one all the time from people. Oh, what about Montana? What about Montana, Kenny? People saw this one and they passed on it. People with the same funds, people with the same capabilities, people with even more money. They all saw this opportunity and passed on it. Why? Because they lack the vision. So the reason why people miss great deals is because they fail to see how they can change the interior or add certain things to the property to improve it and make it really stand out. They fail to see and recognize the potential and to elevate the current moat that property can offer. Most of the time, it's flipped. They're not looking for the moat. They're looking for the obvious. They're looking for the turnkey. People would rather buy a property that is already updated, already finished, already furnished even, and sacrifice things like location, views, proximity, whatever it may be for a moat standpoint, space, seclusion, privacy, things we know that actually drive revenue. They'd rather sacrifice those things to have a quote unquote finished or turnkey product. And I understand that, right? Like, oh, I have to do updates, that I have to take time to figure that out. But ladies and gentlemen, the lesson of today's episode is if you're going to be successful in this space, if you want to find a deal and be successful in today's space, you have to take the time to figure these things out. All of these things are puzzle pieces. All of these things are, I say puzzle pieces in a sense of like, we have opportunity because this property has the views, it has the location, and it's at the right price. but you got to figure out how to piece everything together. I had a similar conversation with another client. We're done looking at this one for now. I think we got the idea. I had a similar conversation actually the other day with another client about a property in New York. Okay. It was his first property he's thinking about buying in New York. He has other properties in other states. And his biggest concern was regulation. Okay. And he's asking me, do you think it's a good deal? And I'm looking at it, I'm like, I think it's a great deal. But the regulation is very important in New York. He's like, yeah, I don't know. Like, you know, we got to get a permit and we got to talk to the board and we got to figure out all this stuff. And I'm like, that's why this is a great deal. It's that simple. Every great deal should, for the most part, we're going to see a puzzle, meaning like we have to figure out how to make this or turn this into or reach its full potential as a deal. So for the regulation example, yes, you do have to go to the board and you have to apply and you talk to these people and you get a permit and you do all these other, like, yes, that sounds painful and it sounds like you have to jump through some hoops, but that's what most people are not willing to do. And that's why most people aren't getting deals. Don't be most people. Okay. Now please don't take this as me saying like, look, you need to go do a renovation project or you need to go find a really complicated property and make it make sense. No, we don't want to make things make sense. But when we look at the moat, right? If we see a property with the bones, that's the best deals are properties with the bones of a moat. It's like, wow, that's got killer views and it's in a damn good location. That's a freaking moat. My next thought is like, how can I have this thing, or seriously, how can I make this thing work given the variables that are at play, the property attributes? And sometimes, unfortunately, the property doesn't work. Sometimes you can't legally STR, which sucks. I hate that. Or sometimes the cost, it's a money pit. But if you know your numbers, which is huge, we talked about that last week a lot. Know your numbers. If you can figure out and know your numbers, you can know if a deal is a deal. Then it's about elevating and building upon the moat that you have. That's what Steve did here. Crushed it. He's going to do very well. He just launched the property. I think this past week or week before. Very, very excited about it. I mean, it's something that, and then at the end of the day, okay, cool. It doesn't work out. Doesn't make any money. What worst case scenario doesn't make money? It's going to make a lot of money, but doesn't make any money. What do? He can sell it and sell it for 1.6 million. Somebody's going to buy that. Modern, fixed, renovated. Most people will look at that and want that, right? If he were to sell that today, I guarantee you those same 10 investors, 8 out of the 10 would be interested in it all of a sudden. Because what are they looking for? They're looking for the updated property, the property that's already ready to go. They don't have to put any time or energy into and just launch it and try to get good cash flow out of. I hear it all the time. It doesn't work like that. If you want the best deal possible, find the properties that have the moat that you can elevate and then activate its potential. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. The goal is to do another episode on this topic because I think we need to hear more examples and more stories on why people miss great deals. I will see you on the next episode of Cash Flow Positive.